Okay, it looks like okay on YouTube as well. Right, looks like we're back on to YouTube. If I turn this off, because it's got circles on my glasses. That's better. Right, so let's get cracking on. So first things first, let's go from some UK news quickly. Let's see here. Be very brief on this one. I'll go straight to Russia, Ukraine. If I share my screen, which one do we want here? Let's be sure about this. Here we go. Right, it's better. It's been a while since I've done this. There we go, screen 2. Okay, so we had Nigel Farage commenting on what happened in Manchester and mentioned the situation regarding the protest that happened. Now, I'm not really fussy about the protest, if I'm brutally honest. I'm just not really going to care. They can protest if they want. And to say that it's actually a bit too sensitive to protest is just ridiculous. I completely disagree with that. To say they're protesting what's happening over in the Middle East, of what happened in Manchester, and I can't explain this to other people as well online, and in the previous video, the previous stream I did, and I said that the two are not really connected in any way. I mean, how... oh crap, what happened there? Why is it doing that? God, the state of this. Okay, it's streaming on bloody... okay, that's just so odd. Never mind. Right. As we were saying, that for me, you can see, there should be no limits on what they can say and what you can come out with. In terms of, we're for free speech apparently, but we're not at the same time for free speech. I never got that. Never really understood that. So, yeah, come on, let's be a bit more consistent here. So Farage made itself, it was an okay statement, there's nothing wrong with it at all, but people should still be able to protest. They're free to do so. There should be no limit on it. Meanwhile, at the actual
great pleasure
vigil, the person who's running it here, I don't know who this guy is, said he's going to bring in members of the government to speak, and they got booed. Just have a listen to this very quickly.
In introducing our Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, and before I do, please, we know how we all feel. We know how we all feel.
Go to Palestine!
I mean that was embarrassing for the government. That's Shabana Mahmood there. Here, that's David Lammy to the left on the screen. I don't know who that is. I'm not sure if Keir Starmer was there, I'm sure he was. Go to Palestine, they said. This is because, of course, about, what was it, 2 weeks ago? The British government, or was it last week? The British government said, we will recognise the Palestinian state. Which, again, is not, it's not tied to this, right? It's not. And because the guy who did the attack, the piece of garbage that did the attack, why did he do it now? Why didn't he do it a year ago? Why did he do it 5 years ago, right? Considering that Israel and Palestine have been going at it for God knows how many years. So this went on for quite a bit of booze, and then when David Lammy spoke as well, this is even more embarrassing for him.
That is why we stand in
How awkward is that? Why is he so stretched here to put a piece of paper there and talk?
defiance of those terrorists who seek to divide us, who want to pit neighbour against neighbour.
I just feel sorry for the guy holding the umbrella.
To weaken the bonds that bind.
Please, let the Deputy Prime Minister speak, please. Please.
We come to become.
He goes on and on and on and on.
Acts such as those carried out here yesterday.
Yeah, that was a bit embarrassing. Someone says empty words, we want action. I'm not sure what exactly want action for, because Israel's pretty much flattening Palestine. But then why are you tying it together? Why are they putting these two as two connected events, which they're not? Right? They're not connected events. There are question marks over the people who commit these attacks. So Andrew Neil says here, so let's go to this one first. Actually, that's 3 updates actually. So Jihad al-Shami, I mean, if you're going to name your son Jihad, there's a little hint there, isn't there? Came to the UK from Syria as a young child. He grew up just around the corner from the synagogue he attacked. So this is about 16 years old. He was granted British citizenship in 2006. It is believed he was a dad. There's a photo shared by own father last year showing holding a baby in his arms, captioned, "Great welcome, grandson." No evidence had been referred to the government's anti-terror program Prevent or was known to police or the security services, yet undoubtedly an Islamist, not from a deprived background. His father, Faraj al-Shami, believed to be a trauma doctor who has worked for several NGOs in war zones across the world. The killer worked as a tutor teaching English and computing. Police have arrested 2 men aged in their 30s and a woman in their 60s. So, the one after that, the father of the Manchester synagogue terrorist praised October 7th Hamas terrorist as Allah's men on earth. He shows support. Of course, that's the dad, that's not actually the son. So go back here, and now this. The Islamist terrorist who attacked the Manchester synagogue was on a police bail for alleged rape when he carried out yesterday's attack. Jalal al-Shami was being investigated for a sexual attack which happened earlier this year. He is also believed to have other criminal convictions. He was not on the radar of counter-terrorism officers. Yes, very, very bizarre, the whole situation. This happened, in London. This would have been on the 1st of October, not recent, well, it's quite recently. And it says here, these people sell fireworks and business parts of China for Israel's destruction. I don't see a single police officer, so the racist thugs from our capital now is like a nightmare dystopia. This is actually not unusual in London, to be honest with you. Right. It's not unusual to see all this happening. I mean, they can stand and protest, I have no issue with it, but if you're launching fireworks like that, you haven't been given permission to do that, it is correct to say, well, where are the police? This is not unusual for the police not to react like this, because you know why? The police are terrified of these people. I'm not going to see my face, of course, but it's worth noting that the police are terrified. But this is why the reason why police have no issue with right-wingers doing their United Kingdom march and knowing there's no backlash, because there's not going to be any problems, or many problems for that matter. These guys, you step up to them, they'll hit you back. And to also note here, it's very important about this, that most of the people in these pro-Palestinian marches and that are white English people. They're not even Arabs, most of them. You find most Arabs are there smoking sheesh and eating kebabs. They're not out here doing this, not for the most part. Keep going here, we're almost finished, halfway through the English news, get to Russia, Ukraine very shortly. Pro-Palestine pros are un-British after Manchester attack, Mahmood says. Why are they un-British? Why is that? I do think that carrying on this way does feel un-British, it feels wrong. The difference between you saying it is wrong, it is un-British, or you feel it's un-British. Right? So they should just stop protesting because some people are upset, because they're trying to link Israel Palestine to everything that happens. And this is why my last stream I did was, is everything about Israel Palestine every time? Is that nothing else matters? You know, as one of our Chaldean priests said, what is your zeal for your family? Sort your own problems out. Who the hell cares what's happening over there? I seriously don't care. They're always at it, always killing each other. Everything has to be. You have an Israeli or a Palestinian, or a pro-Israeli or a pro-Palestinian. Everything. When you talk about football, when you're talking about politics in general, when you talk about what to have for dinner, it is just getting stupid. I don't care. You have to keep making it about Palestine and Israel all the time. You're just getting silly. In very important news in the Anglican Church, not everybody cares because the Anglican Church is falling apart and Catholicism's taken over pretty much. Sarah McNally named first woman Archbishop of Canterbury. In a 2018 opening sermon as Bishop of London, McNally told the congregation that 105 years ago suffragettes tried to detonate a bomb under the seat on which she had been thrown moments earlier. Quote, "Let me reassure you I do not come carrying bombs, or perhaps not literal ones anyway, but I am aware that the first woman Bishop of London are necessarily subversive, and that it's a necessity that I intend to brace." Okay, I don't get that. You brought in someone who cares about LGBTQ issues again. Oh God. Well, let's talk about Kemi Badenoch at the Tory party, which I stated quite openly that the state of the Tory party is that they're going the way of the French Republicans. I said this years ago. The way things are going, and it's happened. It's come out true. I said this back in 2018, I believe, in the stream. Baroness Monet, I have no wish to rejoin laws as a Conservative peer. The former Conservative peer has accused the Tory leader of using inflammatory language and potentially producing a criminal investigation. Now, of course, in her case, just right in front of the screen, isn't it? It says here, using reckless language. So, a day after Sir Keir Starmer accusing the government of pursuing a vendetta against her, the former Conservative peer responded to comments by Miss Badenoch following a High Court ruling that a company linked to Baroness Murnau's husband must repay £122 million received for surgical gowns. £122 for surgical gowns? Oh my God. I don't know what to say. I'm lost for words. Surgical gowns? Okie dokie. Oh, well, the Tories are an absolute mess. You are commenting on a live criminal investigation that could prejudice the outcome of any trial, and in so doing, you are reportable to the Attorney General for breach of and contempt of court. Does no one ever tell you that these things before you and your colleagues make reckless statements in public domain? The Tories can't get everything right. The Tories are finished. You look at those poll numbers, they're done for. Okay? So, she's taking a pop shot at her because I think the Tories weren't particularly happy with this lady doing what she did, and of course, quite frankly, there were a lot of people who were stealing money during COVID, and she's not the only one. So, yeah, good, I'm glad they're going after these people, but let's not pretend this is she's got one good thing that's happening, oh, it's great, it's all done and dusted. No chance. The amount of things that are happening during COVID were disgusting. The Tory party should be ashamed of themselves. That alone should have brought them down when they were in government. That should have brought them down completely. Anyway, so moving on. Speaking of Badenoch, I will take Britain out of the ECHR if we win the next election. No, you bloody won't. Next headline. The 6 eccentric royal traditions Prince William may do away with. From scaling down the pomp to a slimmed down monarchy, what will the future king's reign look like? Not that you care, but it's worth looking here. It says here, ermine, kilt and plume hats. They're saying because they're embarrassing. But isn't the point of the monarchy, the way it's actually kept as it is right now, is because of the traditions? Then if that's the case, there's no point of the monarchy. Living out of 6 houses, yeah, that's a bit too much, wouldn't you say? Oh dear. And yet the United Kingdom is still a constitutional monarchy. People forget that. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying they forget that. Just a few more headlines left before we get to... Actually, there's only 2 actually. That one's not a headline for the UK, it's something else. We'll get to later on. The Israeli minister invites Tommy Robinson to visit after Manchester attack. I had one of the biggest face palms on this one, I'll tell you. I have a better idea. Why don't you just take him with you? Take him with you. He has no impact on our situation in the UK anymore. He doesn't. He seems to be more obsessed about protecting a pimp. People and claim to be, standing for the groom gang victims. Yes, at the same time, happy to see young girls being groomed. Whilst he's been around that as well, apparently. Besides, at Israel, you take him. Keep him there. Give him a job there. In fact, put him in the IDF. Really, I don't care for the guy. No, most people don't anymore. More here. Labour secretly sabotaged China spy trial. Minister's decision not to describe the Xi regime and Quad as enemy led the case to collapse. I mean, can we do anything right in the UK? Can we do anything right? Just one thing, guys. I just want us to do one thing right in all this, please. If we look at other things here, under Kemi Badenoch's leadership, views of the Conservative Party have worsened on almost all attributes, particularly on readiness for government, -37 down from -32 last year. Yeah, they're a mess, the Tories, they really are. One last article came out, actually, I only got the headline here. Maybe I can bring it onto the screen. Let me see if I can paste it on the screen 1 second. We're still on live from there, yep. Let's go, stop sharing here. Let's go here. I think it's on there, there we go. Not going very well for the Labour Party, it seems. Not at all. Treasury lashes out as OBR delivers a verdict on economy. As its checker attacks on wasteful Whitehall spending, Chancellor prepares to launch more tax rises. Oh yeah, we need more tax rises. Yes. I don't think they understand how bad it is economically in our country. We keep saying the Russians are running out of money. Yeah, we're paying for the oil still, and we need to be more energy independent. And then Nigel Farage is somehow conspiring with the Russians to help them. Yeah, he's not actually in power, and the Labour Party have been in power, the Tories have been in power, funding a war nobody wants in Ukraine, Russia, whilst at the same time funding Putin. Good job, guys. Good job. The polls suggest that people are not stupid, which is actually a miracle, in my view, the way I see it. And yet they're going to put more taxes up. The national insurance contributions have already gone up. You're going to do a raid on pensions. You're going to raid us more on taxes in the middle class, so to speak. There's not any middle class anymore. There's only you're either rich or you're poor in the UK now. And you expect people to think you're doing this all for the greater good, when in fact all you're doing is helping your buddies in the unions and the public sector. You're not helping anybody in the private sector. What they say it was wage growth. What wage growth? I haven't seen wage growth for 3 years now. None. So yeah, the Tories had a problem, but you guys are just as bad, if not worse. If not worse than them. So that's a net for the UK news, because there's so much more. I haven't got time to cover it, and it's all depressing. Let's get to Ukraine, Russia. If I just stop sharing now, because I've got the stuff here. If I minimise that. There we go. Right. So it says here, first video. Let me get on the screen at least. Video 1. Oh, too fast, love. If I could do this, would it help? Video 1, right? I think. Yeah, it's on now. So why isn't it showing? Come on. Let's try again. Right, so this video here, speaking of Ukraine, I'll read to you what it says here on the information here. So what they're saying here is there'll be no power outages in there will be power outages in Ukraine. It is necessary to prepare for this. The MP Hrishina, I can't pronounce his names, which are reminding that the Vinnytsia region has already started introducing blackout schedules, while in the Chernihiv region the electricity shortage is so large due to shelling that the regional energy company warned that subscribers will be disconnected even outside of schedules. That's quite something, isn't it? So, whilst that's happening, here's some more information we're getting here. If you get on the screen help, here we go. Now, I don't know why, but this clown can't keep his mouth shut. Being Ben the Wally Wallace, as I call him. Crimea is the key to ending the war in Ukraine. To understand the conflict, we must understand the man. Putin is a bully drunk on romantic czarist bilge. I don't know how to say this, but these people just make the stuff make it up as they go along. He wants to bring back the Soviet Union was the first thing he said. Then they say he's the Tsar. Which is it exactly? You can't be both. You've got to make your mind up on that one. So in the actual information got here on the article itself, the small piece there, and he says here, as long as Crimea is safe, Putin is safe. He can continue his meat grind on the front line from Lugansk to Kherson, so he must put Crimea at risk. Ukraine should focus almost entirely on making Crimea uninhabitable, that's what he says, and unlivable. From Russia's point of view, Ukraine doesn't need to invade the peninsula, which I admit would be incredibly difficult if not impossible, but they need to strangle it to death. The Russian Navy has already been forced out of Sevastopol. Crimea's water and power supply systems must be destroyed. The Kerch bridges must finally be destroyed so that the supplies can pass under Ukrainian fire. Along the land bridge north of the Sea of Azov, Ukraine should bombard Crimea with drones on a daily basis. Now, I'm not sure if this idiot knows what he's talking about, which obviously doesn't. If he recalls, whilst he actually was in government, that when they suggested that Ukraine should attack Kerch Bridge, may I remind people what actually happened 24 to 48 hours later. When Kerch Bridge was hit, and Ukrainians were holding up cameras taking selfies with a giant postcard showing Kerch Bridge on fire, Russia's response was this. They took out almost half of Ukraine's power substations across the entire country. So you could argue he's not actually wrong by saying that Crimea is quite keen, because it is. But for him to actually suggest he should start attacking it and thinking it's actually a good thing, considering what Russia did in response after you just hit a bridge, you hit a road, you didn't actually damage the bridge in such a way that it couldn't be used again. So if you want to take it out, knowing very well that Putin will be very angry about this, you're saying he's going to come in and say, I want to talk. No, he's not. He's going to do the exact opposite of that. These people are so bloodthirsty. This guy is so bloodthirsty. Say what about Putin in Russia. This guy's one of the worst people out there. He really is. This is just disgusting what he's suggesting. And I really hope Ukraine are smart enough to go by what he's demanding here. In that case, let's just say NATO more so than anything else. It's crazy. Not the same news. This is slightly different. I'll explain what the hell this is about. Okay, so the guy pictured, right, this is in Armenia. I'll bring this up very briefly. Come go back to Russia, Ukraine straight after this. According to Yerevan, sentenced Archbishop Mikhail Ajapakyan, I think that's pronounced it, head of the Shirak Diocese of the Armenian Apostolic Church, to 2 years in prison. He was found guilty of, quote, public calls to seize power in Armenia. The Archbishop was arrested in June. The reason was his old interviews where he criticised the country's leadership and spoke about a need for a coup. The Archbishop himself does not admit guilt. His lawyer, Ara Zorobayan, called the verdict an obvious political order. According to him, the judge referred to the article on illegal entrepreneurial activity while it was a charge of public calls. The defence intends to appeal against the verdict and appeal to the ECHR, claiming that the Archbishop's words were only an expression of personal opinion and not a real call to change power. That's strange, isn't it? That the same people who condemn what goes on with people being arrested for free speech and that are absolutely silent on this. But that's not a surprise. Okay? Not a surprise at all. Before I bring that in, just briefly, because I'm going to go back to Russia, Ukraine now. This next picture here, I like my planes. This is Russia's 5th generation Su-75 Checkmate fighter and an aerodrome. The level of readiness of the aircraft for flight test is unknown. In the foreground is one of the Su-57 5th generation fighters, which has already been delivered to the Russian Air Force combat units. So yes, the Russians are really going along with their technology in the army. They're really improving it, taking it up a notch. whilst here in the UK and elsewhere we're falling asleep. Okay. Video 2 says here. This is actually showing Armed Forces of Mali support the African Corps of the Russian Defense Ministry confronting militants. It is also reported that a joint force set up by the AES states, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, has begun operations in Niger. The forces are stationed at Air Base 101 in Niamey, previously used by French troops during Operation Barkhane. This is an ongoing issue that's ongoing in places in Africa, particularly in Mali. It's been a bit of a crapshoot for them. But if this is true, what they're doing to these militants, good job. Of course, you have to realise that some of these militants are actually in fact backed by countries like in Europe and America. But that's not a surprise. I'm not shocked by that at all.
Ces actions ont permis de désorganiser significativement la chaîne logistique des groupes hostiles opérant dans la région. L'état-major général des armées tient à saluer la réactivité et le professionnalisme des unités engagées. Il réaffirme l'engagement des femmes à protéger l'intégrité des territoires et garantir la sécurité des citoyens.
I don't know who that is. It should be noted as well that Washington Examiner had said, I got this now, US troops stationed in Puerto Rico are ready to launch an operation to take over Venezuela overthrowing President Maduro. I don't know where that came from, but that's apparently what Washington Examiner looking at now. Trump sure loves his wars, doesn't he? Because according to him, you can start a war, and then you can turn around and say, I ended one as well. That's the theory. Right, this is a video here. So this was a drone. Okay, and this is actually on target in Konotop in the Sumy region. Russia's recently intensified attacks across some gas facilities in, I think they're in Sumy, or is it Kharkiv and Sumy? Well, most of Ukraine's you got gas production. And that was recently done, I think it was yesterday or the day before, when Russia re-intensified the attacks. You can almost hear the drone in the background there, it must be terrifying. Yeah, that drone coming in. Okay. Right. Some more here. Okay, this is MP Anna Skorohod. I want you to listen to this. This is hilarious.
Последнее, вот я лично готова даже пойти на фронт, если туда пойдут все друзья президента, весь 95-й квартал, весь офис президента, великие менеджеры, которые сидят, только людей обелечивают, весь БЭП, который за весь период своего существования только пообелечивал бизнес и посоздавал ему проблемы. И поверьте, тогда мы отобьем свои территории очень быстро. А пока мы все воюем за счет других, ну, извините, пожалуйста, я за то, чтобы этот кровопролитный ужас закончился, для того, чтобы у нас перестали расти кладбища в украинских флагах и для того, чтобы у нас, наконец-то, в стране был мир. Я готова воевать до последнего.
What she said here was, I'm ready to fight for the last. And what she's saying sarcastically is that why don't the people of Zelensky's friends go there as well? Which makes no idea, look, I want this whole thing to end. So we can stop growing cemeteries covered in Ukrainian flags so that we can finally have peace in our country. Now, if I was to take her words and say them here, you'd be called a Russian propagandist. She's a Ukrainian MP suggesting that you might want to stop this and end this once and for all. But she's like in Parliament, she's the minority, but the country don't want us to carry on. It's too much. It is too costly. Okay, there's another video here. So what this guy is talking about apparently, this video here, just so you get context, you can see the subtitles at the bottom, is that, where's it gone now? There we go. An accident similar to one at Fukushima nuclear power plant, which is in Japan, is impossible at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant because the nuclear power plant units have now cooled down, according to the energy expert Viktor Kurtsev, who's the guy on the screen there. And the Guardian paper wrote about the possibility of such a scenario as well. But here it explains the situation regarding the power plant itself.
Але я думаю, що вони працюють на холостому ходу і вони вже запитують саме власних потреб з російської сторони. Я так думаю. Але ніяка Фукусіма на захолодженому блоку неможливо. Тобто навіть якщо повний крах, все відмінено, дизеля не працюють, немає пального і так далі. От зараз тепловиділення в активній зоні настільки маленьке, що щоб розігрітися там типу до 150 градусів, ну рахували, моделювали 2 місяці. Потім почне випаровуватися вода в системі охолодження. Потім, коли температура дійде до 550 градусів, це наше моделювання, все, станеться динамічна рівновага. Тобто навіть якщо нічого не працює, просто втрата тепла з реактора природним шляхом. От воно збалансується і цієї температури недостатньо, щоб почав плаватись корпус, паливо і так далі. Я думаю, що це легенда, я думаю, що дизеля так включились з дійсністю, це можна набагато.
I should close off my Telegram screen. Oops. Yeah, I mean, that's actually like when you're on call stream and you're listening to the teacher talking about something you're not paying much attention to. But in other words, there's been a lot of scaremongering about the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia for quite some time, and what this guy is saying is, well, yeah, there's always that chance, but it's very, very limited chance that everything's going to happen. That's bad. So there is that as well, which a lot of people we'll talk about, particularly in the UK. I'm trying to get the map ready, so we'll talk about before we close off the stream. There we go. Right. So if I go back to here, this guy you obviously know very well. My good friend Commander Zertsky, who's in charge of the Ukrainian forces after they fired Zaluzhny. So what he said here recently was that in September, being last month, Russia used more than 3,600 Shahed drones against Ukraine. According to him, a separate command for unmanned air defense systems is being formed to counter the drones. Interceptor drone crews are being increased and units are being expanded and new specialists are being trained. Now why not even bring this up in the first place? It seems like a dull thing to even bring up. It makes no sense, or is very little information. It's actually quite critical. He actually confirms one, the lies that Russia keeps sending men to their deaths, because Russia not spending as many men as they think that people think they are. They're not putting that many men on the front line. There's some clashes, skirmishes across the entire line, but not as much do you think. Russia are prioritizing drones. They've been doing this for like maybe 6 to 8 months now, and so Russia before, at the start of the war, were not doing that at all. In fact, you barely heard even them use a drone, which is quite scary. Think about it, 3 years later, Russia have been using nothing but drones. And so they decided that somehow it's costing them men, and they keep using the phrase meat grinder from time to time. Just tells that even the people like Ben Wallace doesn't know what's happening on the front line. I've seen the footage, I've seen pictures. You see hardly any video footage of clashes between Ukraine and Russian soldiers. It's just drone attacks. Either Russian soldiers running for cover, or Ukraine soldiers running for cover, right? That's all you see. So this idea that somehow it's almost like World War One. Yeah, when they're entrenched is correct, but the actual technology being used now is vastly different. If you recall, I always said that the Lancet drone was Russia's best weapon in my old streams. Then all these military experts came out and said the exact same thing as I did, but it was obvious because it was so effective on the battlefield. So the fact that Zertsky's now saying we're now creating some new units and expand them to counter the drone threat tells you they're changing their priorities as well. They need to adjust. They have a choice, really. So Zertsky's actually doing, I think, a really good thing here, believe it or not. He gets a lot of criticism, and fairly, and rightly so. But he's actually doing the right thing here. So there's another one here. Is that picture 5 or video 5? No. The one I say is picture 5 then. Where's the picture? There isn't one. Well, a surprise. But the information here is that the gas production I mentioned earlier, just to confirm some information about that as well. So gas production has been halted in the Poltava and Kharkov regions. I was wrong about Sumy, it's Poltava and Kharkov, following overnight strikes on infrastructure. So what Russia did was they attacked the Lablonivsky gas processing unit in Poltava, the Shablinsky gas field in the Zmyv district in Kharkov, or Kharkiv, how you pronounce it, the Shablinsky line production department, also the main gas pipelines, was hit. The gas booster compressor station near Krasnivka in Kharkov was also hit as well. Okay, so we're getting there. So this is what, where is it? There we go. More information. The Financial Times reported that the US Patriot systems in Ukraine failed against upgraded Russian ballistic missiles. The intercept rate has dropped to 6%. That's according to the Financial Times, because I think that Russia just produced something and that's it. Russia keep modifying their weapons, and the reason why Ukraine's not been as effective as Russia on the drones, because Russia have arguably the best electronic warfare systems on the planet right now, partly because of this conflict. And so it's becoming very difficult for Ukraine to counter the threat, and for the Western nations in particular to say, well, they just give them everything we have. Well, Russia finds a way around it. Russia knows they're going to hit them hard, then they try to counter it. It's always been a tactic they've had employed since day one. There's some footage for everyone to watch. It's 6 clips. That's right, 6 clips. And I'm going to put them all here. This is the mobilization attempts of the Ukraine armed forces, and it's never nice to see it, but people always in denial about this. This actually happens every single day in Ukraine, sadly.
Ёбаный в рот, коли це все закончиться? Дивися, що робиться, Троєщина, блядь. Я їбу нахуй. Ахуєть. Блядь.
That woman there was actually trying to help the guy get into, not to get into the van, was trying to help him out because she had an umbrella and tried to hit the TCC officers with it.
СМТ Рокитне. 008 годин. Куда ви, дебіли? машину їдь, сідай.
Відкривай двері. Відкривай двері. Диви, що робить. Вони чекають адвоката. Яке ви маєте право таке робити? Протокол не складений. Де протокол? На місці складайте протокол.
А ви що робите? Ні, хай вийдуть з машину взагалі чого?
Зійдіть з проїзної частини.
Протоколу немає.
Буде складений.
Коли?
Йому повідомлено, що він затриманий.
Коли буде складений?
Воїни добра, блядь. Позаганяли худобу.
Imagine seeing that in the UK. That'll never be tolerated. Never be tolerated. Never. People say we're in a state of war. That's true, they are. But my point is, that's so wrong. I mean, that's not the first time. There's like hundreds of videos like this. Hundreds. Right, okay. So, where were we with this? Let's share the screen now, won't I? So, let's close these ones off because they're not being used anymore. Okay. I'm just going to show you the map quickly because this is just to give you an idea what's been happening. So, Kupiansk is up here. You can see Russia have entered again into this area here to the east, sorry, to the west in Kupiansk. Look more central now. And it's been a bit of a problem for Ukraine because they're not able to defend here as well. The Oskil River, if I'm going to zoom out a little bit, I can't see it from here. Is it just over here? Am I seeing things? It's got area. Oskil River is right here, in the middle there. Okay, it's been quite difficult for both sides to work on and try and get past. And there's not been many changes across the entire map in terms of like big changes. Russia have always been advancing, but in small parts, let's say. So that's one of the areas up there. Kupiansk has been a bit of a breakthrough for Russia there. Down here, you can see one of the biggest differences really, and I'm not sure why Russia are doing this, but I've been told they decide to go ahead, is they've actually gone to the Dnipro region, which is over here. The borderline you can just about see as like a dotted line here, moving the mouse cursor, like that. So, not a huge chunk, very small amount, but they're in there, just plowing along. And so all they seem to be doing now really is probing in some places where if they can just, get in and just proceed ahead and take part of the computer repair service. There's a computer repair service right in the middle of the water. I don't get that. That's that's a glitch. And so the rest of the line, nothing really. In fact, anything at all, I would say. Ukraine's pretty much given up on trying to counterattack. Certainly for the most part, Ukraine's counterattack has been very limited. But Russia's attacks have been limited as well. So it's one way at the moment, but it's very, very small amounts going forward. Now, if you look at in the next region very quickly, Kramatorsk and Slavyansk is up here, these two in the middle of the screen. Down here is Konstantinivka, bit of a key area as well, and of course another area which I kept talking about was Chazavyar, which I think is very critical, except if I tell you the front lines for a second, I can't click on it, so I don't know why it has so yeah, Chazavyar, is that one up there or is Chazavyar up here? Is that the same one? So there's different. There's some places with the same name. That is the one actually. It's just north of Konstantinivka. Of course, if these two places, it's going to take a long time for Russia to do this, but Russia would take Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. It's pretty much over for the next region as it is, so that's done dusted. There's two key areas. But again, the pursuit in Dnipro I'm not sure about, and I made some gains down here, but very, very small. So there's no real counterattack push from the likes of from Ukraine at the moment. Russia's still a little bit active in Sumy. This part here, excuse me. After the Ukraine's pathetic adventure in Kursk, I have no idea why. I'm glad that Zanuzny agrees with me. That was the most pointless exercise of all time, I think. I'll go that far. Kharkov region, not much happening, just a bit here for Russia. They're not pursuing any further than that. They are just hitting long-range trucks and missiles and drones in Kharkov, in Sumy, in Chernihiv, in Poltava, in Dnipro, and of course in Donetsk as well. Lugansk is pretty much the only region they fully control, I believe. I could be wrong about that. Am I right about that? Looks like it, yeah. So, right now, there's a little change in those parts. We know that Russia, I'm going to go up here actually just briefly, where Finland is, Russia, I've been told, they're going to put some troops, some forces down here. What for? I don't know. Of course, I know Finland joined NATO recently, but I think it's the way of them, saying to NATO, we keep an eye out on you here. And of course, we heard Ben Wally Wallace say about how, you're trying to attack the Crimea. I might send a message to Putin. Morons, if you do that, you're going to see not much of Ukraine left. This is why Ukraine doesn't touch Crimea, because they know what Russia would do to them. There's a reason why Ukraine is a little bit smarter than these clowns in Brussels and Washington as well. So for me, again, there's not much changes on this map. I can't really go through too much of it because there's not much here. The Russia are just making incremental progress in some parts. Again, I'll be interested to see what happens in places like Izium, which is over here. That's close to Kupiansk, and of course the other two are here, Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. So it doesn't look too far away from where Russia are. If you get closer on the map, it's actually still quite a bit of distance away. And these are like fortresses really, so Russia will be pounding those areas quite hard. Seversk is still there. It's practically like a no man's land. A lot of these parts you'll find, why Russia hasn't got into them, and nor has Ukraine, is because they're actually flat. There's no reason for you to be there. It's a waste. You're gonna be like an open target. That's what occurs in some of these parts. Anyway, there's the maps. Let me play to you what Putin has been saying recently. There are 3 clips, and I'm trying to remember what the event was. I'm not entirely sure. And here it is: 1 minute 25, 24 seconds, and 1 minute 23. Here we go. Got English subtitles as well.
Потому что когда он поступал, он что сделал? Он родители не знают, куда он уехал. Он сказал, что уехал путешествовать. Потом приехал в Турцию, из Турции перебрался в Москву и пришел в военкомат. И сказал, что он разделяет те ценности, которые защищает Россия. Это, я не шучу, это же все записано там. Право человека на свой язык, на религию и так далее. Он за права человека. И Россия за это борется. И он готов и хочет бороться за эти ценности с оружием в руках. Он прошел специальную подготовку и был зачислен не просто в вооруженные силы, а в элитные подразделения российских вооруженных сил, воздушно-десантные войска. Причем, они все, по сути, штурмовики. И он воевал на переднем крае. Воевал достойно. И я считаю, что вот такие люди, вот они составляют ядро вот этой организации МАГА, которая поддерживает нынешнего президента Трампа. Почему? Потому что вот они вот за эти ценности, как и он, и выступают. Вот. Что касается захвата судов каких-то, но чего ж хорошего, это пиратство. Что с пиратами делают? Уничтожают. Ну, как с пиратами поступают? Но это не значит, что на завтра развернется война по всему мировому океану. Но уровень риска столкновений, конечно, резко это серьезно увеличится. Ситуация в Газе – это ужасное событие в истории, современной истории человечества. И даже известно, как прозападно ориентированный генеральный секретарь Организации Объединенных Наций господин Гутерриш сказал публично, что Газа превратилась в самое большое детское кладбище в мире. Ну что может быть более трагичным и печальным? Что касается предложения президента Трампа по Газе, вы знаете, наверное, будет неожиданным для вас, но в целом Россия его готова поддержать. И если, конечно, мы внимательно должны посмотреть на сделанные предложения, если, конечно, это приведет к окончательной цели, о которой мы всегда говорили. Россия всегда, начиная с 1948 года, а потом и 1974, когда была принята соответствующая резолюция Совета Безопасности ООН, выступала за создание двух государств, и Израиля, и палестинского государства. И в этом, на мой взгляд, заложен залог окончательного решения палестино-израильского конфликта.
Right. Okay. So that first clip, he was talking about some guy that was the son of I don't get quite catch that actually. That I've got the video title here. But there's two more videos I'm going to play with Putin. I just want to get those three out of the way. The CIA's deputy director's son, who was killed fighting for Russia. The second video is talking about when France had actually taken over a freighter? I can't remember exactly what it was. In Europe, just outside of France's the international waters surrounding France and Europe and UK. And they let it go in the end, because they couldn't find anything. And then he was just addressing the issue about piracy, which is basically, look, if you're effectively taking over ships like this, and we see you doing it quite often, we're going to react to it. So there might be a tit for tat. Similar to what Iran did in the Straits of Hormuz, I think it was, or around where the Gulf states were. In that third video, it's talking about Gaza, the situation of Israel and Palestine. As I keep saying, it just goes on forever, that one. But two more videos from him. Here we go. This one we're talking about drones can't solve Ukraine's problems. Manpower shortage. Or stops Russia's steady advance, as he said. He said steady advance. It wasn't me who said it, it was actually Putin himself. So here it is. Let's go to those two clips now.
Украины, сколько их там не насыщай дронами, сколько не создавай, на первый взгляд, непреодолимые линии обороны с помощью дронов, все равно, если личного состава не будет, воевать-то некому. Понимаете? Я говорил об изменении тактики ведения боевых действий с новой техникой. Но посмотрите, что у нас и по каналам телевидения показывают, как идут наши войска. Да, это требует времени. По 2, по 3 человека. Но продвигаются. Могут томагавки нанести нам ущерб? Могут. Но будем их сбивать. Будем совершенствовать свою систему ПВО. Нанесет ли это ущерб нашим отношениям, в которых наметился какой-то свет в конце туннеля? Конечно, нанесет. Ну а как же? Применять томагавки без прямого участия американских военнослужащих невозможно. Это будет означать абсолютно новый, качественно новый этап эскалации, в том числе в отношениях между Россией и Соединенными Штатами.
Quite so, quite so. That was Putin recently making comments. That was more to the fact that the United States have mentioned they were going to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, allow them to use them anywhere they want in Russia, which is bizarre, because I thought, you know, Russia, Ukraine, Ukraine, Russia, 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 Ukra Trump wanted the Peace Prize. Didn't he want that? He was begging so much for it and asked people to vote for him. I really don't get what the United States and Europe's beef is with Russia. I'll never understand it. I don't get it. Even Russia came to you and said they weren't part of NATO. Got a great deterrent to China, for crying out loud, and said no thanks to that. Now you whine and complain and bitching about how I can't beat Russia, I'm more close to China now. Every move we make in Europe and America does, we screw up. Iraq screwed it up. Libya screwed it up. Even tried to intervene in Syria, screwed it up. Everything we do, you can say, well, about Russia, make any comments you want, go for it. Seriously. But we can't talk. We're horrible. We are the worst. And every time you mention this, this is how it works, the arguments of the people in the West, and Maria and Michelle know this, is that you say, guys, who started the Iraq War? And the response will be, well, Saddam Hussein was a tyrant. But before that, they would say, yeah, it was actually a wrong thing to do. So in order to be able to defend themselves and actually, I suppose it's the guilt kicking in, they have to try and justify it in their own mind. Like, no, guys, you made the country worse. It's more corrupt than it was before. There's been more deaths since Saddam went, or during his reign in power, for crying out loud. Arguably more than what the Iraq-Iran war was doing, for goodness sake. And so on and so forth. Now, anything latest happening in Russia quickly? Let's have a quick look. I want to keep going to Europe and American politics. There was another, looks like there was fire there. Where the hell was that? Is that actually in... That was today. That was earlier today. Seeing pictures here. That was in Chernihiv. There are power outages there, which is... That was known. That's fine. Okay, fine. Well, any breakthroughs on the ground? The battlefield? No, I don't see much happening there because it was just since the this morning. There seems to be no changes. There was some unrest in Tbilisi in Georgia. 6 protesters and 21 law enforcement officers have been injured as a result of unrest. But then again, this is all driven by the EU because they don't like it when people don't want to be tied to European values. Trump said Israel has agreed to the Gaza withdrawal line outlined by the US. Now Hamas confirmation is needed. When it's received, the ceasefire will come to effect and the exchange of prisoners and hostages will begin. Will it happen or not? We have no idea. Drones of unknown state affiliation have been spotted over Vilnius, in capital Lithuania that is. There's a lot of drone activity in Europe recently. Germany as well. Future Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babis has said that Ukraine is not ready to join the EU. The war must be finished first. Czech Republic had some elections recently as well. Yeah, so Lithuania is on lockdown in terms of the air traffic because of the unknown drones. It's not unusual. German authorities have categorized as military reconnaissance drones spotted over unit of unknown state affiliation because they don't know who they are. Which is, I think it's pretty obvious who they are. Okay, here's something that's come up. This is about 2 hours ago. Ukrainian monitoring resources report a record-breaking attack by Russian Duran type kamikaze UAVs. Up to 750 drones expected tonight. 750 Russia use in one day apparently, according to Ukraine tonight. Cruise missiles as well being looked at. So NATO assets, including fighter jets, have been put on maximum alert on the border of the Ukraine. But of course, there was a little talk about how whether they're going to shoot down drones or missiles that come over into NATO airspace. In this case, Poland, for example. Okay, maybe Romania as well. So we'll keep an eye on that later on until the next stream. We'll talk about that if anything comes up. Hopefully next week. So I think apart from that, guys, we'll wrap it up. Until then, just see if there's anything else. I don't think there is. Checking now. 31 bits of news there. Some map change alerts and all that. Nothing major. As I mentioned about Georgia being some unrest there. Yeah, no idea why they're trying to do that in Georgia. It makes no sense. Anyway, that's not the stream. Until then, we will see you next time. Don't forget to check out Telegram. If you're not watching from there, nobody is, apart from one person. t.me/TheNationState. That's all the Ukraine-Russian news is. I'm also on Twitter, known as X. UKRRUS News. That's the Twitter handle. And of course, news you can check me out on there called The Nation State.